Halima Aden becomes the first model to wear hijab and bikini in Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. The irony is that hijab is actually meant to take away from men's gaze and to reduce her beauty, but she's actually flaunting herself in a swimsuit edition, a magazine intended for men to ogle women in. Now, what does the Quran say about the hijab? I'm Abdullah Samir. I left Islam 4 years ago and I'm making videos on the topic of criticizing Islam without having bigotry towards Muslims. Halima Aden has become worldwide news now for being the first ever bikini wearing Muslim woman in Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. CNN, for example, has an article about her. The Guardian has an article. Halima Aden becomes first model to wear a bikini in Sports Illustrated. In Al Jazeera, breaking barriers, Sports Illustrated to feature bikini model. What does the Quran say about wearing hijab? The Quran says in chapter 24, verse 31, "And tell the believing women to reduce some of their vision and guard their private parts and to not expose their adornment, except that which appears thereof, and to wrap their head covers over the chest and not expose their adornments, except to," and then it goes on and on. Those are the people that they're allowed to show the adornment to, so they don't have to wear hijab in front of all these people. And then in another verse, it says, "O Prophet, tell your wives and your daughters and the women of the believers to bring down over themselves part of the outer garment." So it's talking about a khimar. "That is more suitable that they will be known and not abused. And ever is Allah forgiving and merciful." So the Quran is saying here, and in the other verse, that it's obligatory, according to Orthodox, Sunni, and Shia Islam, to cover your hair. The hair is considered a natural part of the beauty of a woman, and her bosom, her chest, and she's not supposed to expose it. The interesting thing is that Islam actually makes women invisible. It makes women invisible from men. It hides them and it takes them out of the public sphere, in the sense that if you can't see her, then she's not mingling, she's not present. And religions in general, and maybe even cultures more generally, have been doing this for millennia, where they try to control women's sexuality. Men try to control women's sexuality by limiting them. So this is an example of that. So we definitely don't want to go to an extreme where we become like the people that are not allowing women to wear what they want. So, for example, on this one beach in France, a Muslim woman was told to uncover because she was wearing a burqa on the beach. So that is going too far. So we definitely want to support women's rights to wear what they want to wear or to not wear what they want to wear. We don't want to become extremists that don't allow for freedom of religion and expression, especially if they're not actually hurting anybody. But can we point out the hypocrisy? Yes, definitely we can point out the hypocrisy. The hypocrisy of this woman, who is going in a magazine that's intended for men to look at her, whereas Islam actually is teaching that she's not allowed to beautify herself in front of other men. So it's a hypocritical stance to be in a magazine next to other pictures of naked or semi-naked women. If Islam was in power, none of this would be allowed. Women would not be allowed to wear whatever they wanted to wear. They would all have to fully cover. And this beautiful artwork done by Bushra al-Mutawakkil shows like how in different societies, the different amounts of covering that needs to be done, and how much more invisible a woman becomes. As the more she covers, the less of her is apparent. And we don't want to live in a society that women cannot feel the fresh air on the neck and on the body, and to let them, to enjoy the wind going through their hair, to be in public around other men. This would all be forbidden. She wouldn't be able to dress how she wanted. This Is this the type of world you want to live in? Hijab is not about women's empowerment or liberation. It's a tool used by Allah or Muhammad. It's a tool used by the religious authorities to make women more controlled and invisible. And what's even worse is when these are young girls who are taught at a very young age that this is how they need to dress. This is the appropriate way of interacting with men. And then they grow up thinking this is a choice. It's quite fascinating. This young man, Yusuf Omar, went to a place called Badkhal in South India where he interviewed this young girls at a school. Look and see what happens.
My name is Mazia. Umra. Aina. Kulsum. Raja. Amara. Ilfa. Ilaf.
And what do you want to do when you finish school?
Doctor. Artist.
Civil officer.
Software engineer. Lawyer.
Teacher.
Everybody wants to be a doctor in this room.
I want to be a journalist. I want to be a journalist.
But here is the problem.
We're not supposed to use social media.
Why?
Our elders don't allow us to use.
Why not?
Ask them.
What else are we not allowed?
We're not allowed to do what we want to do because it comes under our family's name. Because it says it's so-and-so's daughter, so-and-so's granddaughter. They're not allowed to do what we want to do.
This is rubbish. And what about the boys?
Boys, they're given more freedom than the girls.
And how are we going to fix it?
We'll have to try with the journalism.
I asked the girls what issues they had in their communities, and there were many, but the niqab or the covering of the face wasn't one of them.
And people think that we are forced to wear it, but that isn't the case.
Hijab is our choice. Hijab is not just a piece of cloth, it is a way of life.
We cover ourselves to avoid the unwanted gaze because face is the focus of temptation and desire.
Myself, Ariba, I would like to be called as a proud hijabi. Shukran.
But when I asked some of the men and teachers who work in the schools and madrasas if the niqab is compulsory, they said,
a girl must be covered from head to feet. During the time of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they used to open only one eyes so that they could see the road.
The niqab is a complicated issue. For some, it's a choice. For others, it seems like a cultural expectation.
So, as he was showing there, these young girls don't even maybe realize like what freedom is. They don't realize that, you know, as a 6-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old, you don't need to dress like that in order to avoid the unwanted male gaze. Like, that's not even normal to be, you know, looking at little girls like that. But of course, the reason why they do that is to teach them, so when they get older, it becomes internalized and they just naturally want to dress like this because they're so used to it. But it's so unnecessary. And in another part of the world, you have feminists who are fighting for the right to dress how they want to not have to wear a hijab, because the hijab is mandatory in Iran and the religious police over there enforce it. And you know, even the secular police, I guess sometimes, or the religious class, the mullahs, so to speak, even other women are sometimes, you know, enforcing this on other women, and they force them to wear the hijab. So there's a movement going on in Iran. These people need to be supported as well. We can't forget these people in Saudi, in Iran, in places in the world where they have no choice, where adult free women are told and condemned if they don't wear the hijab. For example, in Malaysia, there were a few women that wanted to speak about why they didn't want to wear hijab or why they stopped wearing hijab, and the religious authorities decided to investigate them. So this is a type of kind of control that's put in Muslim countries where women, if they don't want to wear, they're harassed, they're interrogated, and they're not allowed to just even speak about why they don't want to wear hijab. In a sense, hijab also erases not only hijab, let's say, but the burqa, the khimar, you know, there's different words for abaya. It erases from, you know, a natural culture and the variety and beauty that we find in natural clothing, right? You find that in many cultures where that become Islamicized, you know, like Bangladesh or Iran or Afghanistan, what happens is the variety, or even India, you know, the variety is taken away from. This is Iran and Malaysia and Indonesia and Iraq, Syria. You know, there's a lot of variety. Morocco, Tunisia. So this is what happens when you have a society that becomes Islamicized, and the more religious it becomes, the more it takes away from the variety and the natural, beautiful local dress that you find in the culture. And this is because Islam sees a woman's beauty as something dangerous, something that has to be controlled and limited. Islam puts limits on the natural clothing of a culture in order to limit the sexuality and the expressiveness of women's natural beauty. It does this to control women. Hi, I'm Abdullah Samir. I'm creating videos on the topic of criticizing Islam without bigotry towards Muslims, and I could use your help. Please check out my support page if you'd like to support me to make more such videos on these topics. And thank you so much to all of my supporters for helping me to continue doing this. And thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to thumbs up if you haven't done that. Take care. Bye for now.